3 spine-chilling tales of terrifying haunts, unearthed secrets from the dead of night. In the quiet suburb of Elmwood, shadows stretched long and sinister, casting dread where there once was comfort. Sarah, a single mother, felt each vibration beneath her feet, a rhythm that thrummed like a warning bell against the stillness of night. The floorboards rattled, not from the normal settling of aging wood, but from an unseen tension, a lurking terror whispering just beyond her comprehension. As she stirred the pot on the stove, stirring thoughts of dinner but not wanting to acknowledge the haunting silence outside, she glanced at Max. His youthful face had gone pale, his eyes wide as if the light beyond their window held more than just the fading warmth of day. "Did you hear that?" His voice quivered, breaking through her thoughts like glass shattering in the dark. Sarah nodded, fear creeping up her spine like icy fingers. Distant murmurs slipped through her window, now a grim reminder that Elmwood was no longer the haven they had known. The laughter of children was dwindling. Max's friends were disappearing, one by one, as if drawn into the night by forces unknown, leaving behind only echoes of their once happy voices. There were tales on social media, paranoia wrapped in pixels of shadowy figures gliding through their streets at odd hours, caught between bursts of eerie normalcy. Children once played in clusters, now they hung back, huddled together, eyes darting around. The fear was palpable, running like a current through the community. Was it the economy fracturing their unity or something far more sinister? Each day, the decay crept deeper, and trust vanished like the last rays of sunlight. Despite the unease, there was Mr. Crowley, the retired police officer next door, whose very presence should have made her feel safe. But as Sarah watched him shuffle around with secretive gestures, strange conversations with other neighbors missed in the periphery, an unsettling doubt slid into her mind. Should she trust the very one who was meant to protect them? The thought gnawed at her, and with each passerby, the weight of their displeasure wrapped around her heart like chains. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The night Sarah confronted Mr. Crowley echoed with unspoken tension. Standing on the threshold of her home, she could feel the weight of the air pressing against her skin. Shadows fell from light posts like dark daggers, carving a path to truth. Mr. Crowley's words slithered through the air, revealing a conspiracy so vile it twisted her stomach, secrets that burrowed deep into the soul of Elmwood. As the ground beneath them vibrated with a restless energy, it churned with anguish as if begging to unveil the horrors hidden just beneath the surface. In this moment of fragile clarity at dawn's edge, the silence rang louder than the screams of fear. The looming question hovered thick like fog. What sacrifices would she have to make to protect Max? Like fire igniting in her chest, the slow burn of resistance flickered inside her now. Darkness lay heavy over Elmwood, and in Sarah's heart, a realization blossomed: this battle was only just beginning. Would she uncover the truth, or would the darkness consume everything she held dear? The morning light bled into the remnants of night, struggling to penetrate the heavy fog wrapping Elmwood. Sarah stood at the window, the hesitant light doing little to chase away the shadows clinging to her thoughts. Each breath felt laborious. Max was asleep, but she couldn't shake the dread coiling in her stomach. Surely, he deserved to awaken in peace, unaware of the horrors lurking just outside their doors. Yet the nightmares of yesterday tightened their grip on her mind. Stepping back from the window, Sarah poured herself a cup of coffee. The steam twisted elegantly, evaporating much like the safety of her world. Strong footsteps echoed from next door, jolting her heart. Mr. Crowley? Did he come to confirm her fears? She couldn't dwell on it. She had to know what he was hiding. Gathering her resolve, she flung open the door, the hinges creaking in protest. The world outside was muted, an eerie calm enveloping the neighborhood. Her gaze flicked toward Mr. Crowley's house, a chill coursing through her veins as she approached. The door stood ajar, an invitation or perhaps a warning. "Mr. Crowley, she called softly, stepping inside. Darkness swallowed her whole as she crossed the threshold. The air grew thick with suspicion, a miasma that pressed down on her shoulders. She fumbled for light, the stark contrast intensifying the shadows now creeping around her. "Are you here?" Silence answered. She moved deeper into the house, her footfalls muffled by layers of dust. Framed photographs lined the walls, scenes of happier times, with smiling faces frozen in time. But the further she went, the more the images distorted, losing their clarity. A flash of movement caught her eye, something scuttled out of sight in the corner. Heart racing, she turned sharply, but there was nothing, only the dying light testing her courage. In the kitchen, a strange odor struck her nose. It was sweet and cloying, underlined with something rancid. Sarah's stomach churned. She edged closer, her instincts screaming at her to turn back, but the compulsion to uncover the truth was too strong. As she pulled the fridge door open, a gasp escaped her lips. Inside, jars lined the shelves, filled with murky liquid, the contents unidentifiable. Her eyes darted to a crumpled piece of paper lying on the counter. She snatched it up, frantically unfolding it. Words screamed at her, "They have to be fed." Each letter seeped with desperation, unraveling a reality more twisted than she could have imagined. Without warning, the front door slammed shut, pulling her back to the present. The thundering echo rang in her ears, drowning out the sounds of her own heart. Panic surged as she raced to the entryway, but the door wouldn't budge, an iron grip holding her in place. "Mr. Crowley!" she shouted, fury mixing with fear. She pounded the door with her fists. "Let me out!" Sarah, the voice emerged, low and gravelly, almost reassuring yet utterly chilling. Mr. Crowley stood in the shadows behind her, his frame now a grotesque silhouette. "You shouldn't have come here," he hissed, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "Now you know too much." Each word dripped with malevolence as the air around her grew colder, thick with the scent of decay. Sarah's instincts surged, a primal urge to run. But where could she turn? The darkness seemed to fold in on her, veins of terror lacing their way through the very foundation of her existence. In that moment of despair, her resolve shifted. Fear was now a tool, her weapon against whatever lay ahead. She had to protect Max. She would fight back. But would it be enough? And as the shadows started to twist around her, she realized the question was no longer just about survival. It was about understanding the depths of Elmwood's evil. What had really happened to the children? And who would be next? With dread replacing the air in her lungs, Sarah felt the weight of her choices bearing down, anchoring her deeper into the darkness. She was out of time. A low growl erupted from Mr. Crowley's throat, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. "You'll regret this," he declared, taking a slow step closer, his hands outstretched like the claws of a beast ready to strike. Panic surged through her veins, electrifying her senses. She needed to get out, to warn Max. Instinctively, she turned towards the back of the house, her heart pounding like a war drum. The darkness behind her felt alive, pulsating, hungry. Just as she made her move, she heard something skitter across the floor. A faint whispering echoed, growing louder, a chorus of lost voices. "Run!" they seemed to cry, wrapping around her, urging her onward. Sarah darted away from Mr. Crowley, her legs pumping beneath her as she navigated through shadows that loomed like specters ready to ensnare her. The kitchen became a maze, every creaky floorboard warning her of danger. She made a beeline for the back door, hoping it would grant her freedom, but her breath quickened when she found it locked tight. "Please, Max," she gasped, twisting the knob helplessly. The chilling realization set in, she was truly trapped. Behind her, Mr. Crowley laughed, a sound akin to gravel scraping against bone. "You think you can escape what's already taken root?" he taunted. Sarah spun around, eyes wide, desperate. "What have you done?" she demanded, but her voice trembled, cracking under the weight of her fear. The air felt electric, charged with malevolence. "It's what we must do to survive." His breath reeked of something rotten, and it reminded her of the jars in the fridge. A sinking feeling gripped her stomach as the pieces began to click. "The children," she whispered. "Clever girl," he said, nodding slowly, the shadow of a smile creeping onto his face. "They feed the hunger. They keep us safe. But now you know, and you won tea last the night." The walls seemed to close in, panic clawing its way into her throat. "No. I want to let me. You're part of this now," he hissed, cutting her off. "It's only a matter of time." Suddenly, the floor groaned beneath her. Sarah faltered, looking down as cracks began to spider web out from her feet, as if the house itself were rebelling against her presence. Out of the corners of her vision, shadows twisted and danced. A soft murmuring filled the space around her, words she couldn't decipher but that chilled her to the bone. With a surge of adrenaline, she pushed against the back door with all her might. To her surprise, it creaked open just enough for her to slip through. She barreled into the backyard, cold air rushing around her, a stark contrast to the rancid warmth inside. The fog hung thick, wrapping around her like a shroud. Glancing over her shoulder, Sarah saw Mr. Crowley's silhouette silhouetted in the doorway, motionless but watching. She sprinted toward the fence that bordered her yard, heart racing, ears straining for any sounds behind her. "Max!" she cried. "I need to get to Max." But as she reached the fence, a heavy barrier loomed ahead. The gate was locked. She fumbled with the latch, panic threatening to overwhelm her. Each second felt like an eternity. "Come now, Sarah," Mr. Crowley's voice toiled through the fog, smoother yet more menacing than ever. "Don't you want to see what happens next? It's what you signed up for." With trembling hands, she finally jerked the gate open and hurled herself into the night. The world outside was a blur of fog and creeping dread while memories of the children's eyes flashed in her mind. She was running from the truth they represented, running to protect the one person she loved most. But would she reach him, or would darkness consume them both? As she fumbled through the shadows, she could feel something lurking just beyond reach, hungry for more. The question lingered cruelly in the air: would she be the next to feed the evil of Elmwood? The answer felt closer than she dared to admit. The frigid air hit Sarah like a slap. She stumbled forward, breath coming in short gasps, barely able to think. Max was out there. He had to be. Glancing around, the fog thickening, she trotted down the narrow path leading away from the house. The silhouette of Mr. Crowley loomed behind her, a dark statue against the flickering light seeping from the windows. She risked a look back, her heart thudding loudly in her ears. He was still there, watching, a predator waiting for his moment to strike. Each step she took felt like a step deeper into a nightmare, the shadows swirling around her, beckoning her back toward the house. Something whispered her name, a faint, haunting sound that sent chills racing down her spine. Max. The sound of her own voice felt small against the vast emptiness surrounding her. The fog enveloped her as she pressed on, searching for a way to get to him. As she navigated the overgrown path, her foot caught on something unseen. She flailed, hitting the cold ground hard, a white-hot pain shooting through her knees. Gritting her teeth against the rush of terror, she scrambled back to her feet. A fallen tree branch lay across her path, and just beyond it, a glint of metal caught her eye. A shovel. He must be nearby, she mused, grabbing it to defend herself, feeling its weight in her hands. The metal felt cold, but it gave her pause, a small flicker of bravery against the overwhelming fear. She clutched it tightly, moving forward. The backyard sloped down towards heavy underbrush, dark and menacing. She could barely see beyond it, but there was a clearing just ahead. "Please, Max." She yelled again, hoping her voice would reach him. Suddenly, a rustling came from behind her, sharp and quick. Heart in her throat, Sarah turned, gripping the shovel like a lifeline. Shadows flickered, twisting unnaturally in the fog. "Show yourself," she shouted, forcing the tremor out of her voice. Sarah, it was a small voice, pitiful and lost. A child's voice, trembling. She moved closer to the sound. "Max? Is that you?" The shadows shifted, and she could just make out a figure huddled against a stump. "No, don't come closer," the child whimpered, big eyes glistening with fear. Familiar yet wrong. A chill crawled up Sarah's spine. "What's wrong?" "It's not safe. He's coming." The child reached out a hand, but shadows pooled around them like smoke, curling possessively around his small frame. Then, from behind Sarah, she heard it, the low growl again, unmistakable. Mr. Crowley's presence grew closer, the air thick with impending danger. "Run!" The child screamed, panic illuminating his eyes. A cold wave of dread washed over her. She had to choose: stay and protect the child or escape to find Max. The standoff left her breathless. But she knew she couldn't leave someone to face that monster alone. "Hide!" she barked, pushing the child behind her, brandishing the shovel with white-knuckled resolve. The growl intensified, reverberating through the ground. "You think you can fight it?" Mr. Crowley's voice dripped with dark amusement, crawling closer in the fog. "You're already too late." With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah swung the shovel wildly in front of her. The shadows writhed, coiling in response, shrieking as they recoiled from her defiance, but deep inside, she feared the monstrous creature would not be so easily deterred. Could she protect both herself and the child? Would she find Max before Mr. Crowley consumed everything she loved? Panic settled in her gut as she prepared for the echoing clash, heart hammering louder than ever. Mere seconds before the darkness would strike, the question hung between them, heavy: would she become the next sacrifice in the chilling night? The looming threat was now more than just shadows, it was alive and hungry. The growl erupted, pulsing through the air like a drumbeat of fear. Sarah tightened her grip on the shovel, every muscle in her body screaming with tension. The child behind her was silent now, a small breath held in suspense, as if he sensed the chilling tension rising. "Do you truly think you can stop me?" Mr. Crowley's voice dripped with contempt, weaving through the dense fog, wrapping around her like a noose. "This is my domain. Get away from us." The bravado in Sarah's voice felt like a fragile thing, but she pushed it to the forefront. Anger ignited within her, a flicker against the encroaching horror. The shadows seemed to grasp at her, tendrils snaking around her ankles and other limbs. She swung the shovel fiercely, feeling the bite of resistance as it met the swirling darkness. The shadows shrieked, writhing back for a moment, but they quickly regrouped, advancing like a tide. "Run!" Sarah yelled to the child, giving him a gentle shove. "Go! Don't look back." He hesitated, fear rooted firmly in place. "But you now." The intensity in her voice pierced through the child's paralysis. He bolted past her, disappearing into the thick underbrush. With a futile hope that he'd find safety, Sarah turned back to confront Mr. Crowley. The darkness coiled tighter around her, pulsating with malevolence. She felt a rush of cold air, its icy fingers brushing against her skin like a lover's caress, whispering promises of despair. "You thought you could save him?" Mr. Crowley taunted, emerging from the veil of shadow. His figure solidified, the edges sharp and sickly in contrast to the darkness surrounding him. "Your love blinds you, Sarah. You will join him soon in eternal night." She swung the shovel again, adrenaline giving her strength as it connected with his shadowy form. Something in the darkness wailed, a sound too human, too mournful. For the briefest moment, the shadows retreated, leaving Mr. Crowley flickering, struggling to maintain his shape, but it was only a moment. He laughed then, the sound echoing like thunder, and the shadows pressed in harder, nearly overwhelming her. She felt the chill seep into her bones, doubt gnawing at her resolve. "No, I won't let you take me." Summoning all her strength, she swung the shovel once more, channeling every ounce of defiance. The blade connected with a mass of shadow, and this time the backlash sent her staggering backward. The ground beneath her feet was slick with wet, clinging mud, dragging against her shoes as she staggered, her heart pounding furiously. "Foolish girl," Mr. Crowley hissed, his form flickering, the shadows swirling around him as they searched for a way to reclaim their prey. "You cannot escape what awaits you." Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the night, a sound that cut through the fog like a knife. Her stomach twisted in horror. It was the child. Max. Sarah screamed, spinning toward the direction of the scream. The fog thickened, engulfing her vision as fear slammed against her chest. Let him go. She shouted into the enveloping darkness, clutching the shovel like a lifeline. The air was heavy with dread, each breath feeling thick and suffocating. Then, out of the fog, a hideous figure emerged. You must decide, Sarah, Mr. Crowley crooned, stepping closer, the shadows writhing around him, undulating like a living creature. Your life for his. The weight of his words settled like stone on her heart. In that moment, anger mixed with terror, boiling over. Was he going to let him win? Not again, but as she readied herself, poised for a final confrontation, an unexpected tremor coursed through the ground, promising an unseen danger lurking just beneath the surface. Her heartbeat quickened. Was this the end or only the beginning? In the swirling fog, the shadows twisted and turned, taunting her with glimpses of Max, lost and frightened. The clock was ticking. Choose wisely, the creature taunted, its voice losing the laughter, becoming more sinister. What was she willing to sacrifice to save him? A low rumble sent vibrations through the soil, and Sarah staggered, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The shadows twisted, contorting around her like angry serpents, each hiss a reminder of the price of failure. Max. The name echoed in the air, a promise and a plea. She knew she couldn't hesitate. She couldn't let the darkness claim him. You don't have much time, Mr. Crowley warned, his voice dripping with malice. Each word slithered through the darkness, curling around her heart with icy fingers. Choose now, or watch him perish. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to break free from this nightmare, but the thought of Max trapped isolated, scared rooted her feet to the ground. A cold sweat trickled down her back. What do you want? She forced out, swallowing her fear. Mr. Crowley stepped closer, his eyes glimmering with an otherworldly hunger. Your soul, dear Sarah. In exchange for his life. It's a simple deal. No. She shouted, shaking her head violently. An image shot through her mind, Max, laughing, carefree in the sunlight. The fleeting memories crashed over her like waves. Not so hasty, Crowley purred, his smile widening. Think of all the times love has been sacrificed. You feel that warmth? That bond? It will burn brighter in the dark. With a scream, Sarah swung the shovel again, desperation fueling her swing as it sliced through the air. The shadows shrieked as they recoiled. But instead of retreating, they charged forward like a stampede, drawing closer, hungry for her essence. Fool! Crowley thundered, and the very air thickened, electrical with fury. The shadows twisted violently, grasping at her, desperately trying to siphon her soul. She could feel them pulling at her skin, wrapping around her limbs like a vice, draining her strength. Max! She cried, feeling the shadows encasing her like a thick, suffocating cloak. I won't give up on you. The earth trembled again, harder this time, as if the ground itself felt the weight of her anguish. A sudden tremor broke the light hold Crowley had over her, if only for a second, a brief flicker of hope amidst the chaos. Run, escape. The words came unbidden as a primal instinct igniting in her chest. With everything she had, she broke through the shadow's hold and lunged toward the sound of the child's cries, still resonating through the twisted fog. Her feet slipped, but she pushed on, each step imbued with desperation. The sense of wet earth and decay filled her lungs, mingling with the underlying smell of burnt memories, of lives unlived. The darkness lashed out, striking her shoulder like a whip, and she stumbled but kept moving. Max! She shouted again, her voice now raw with emotion. I'm coming. The fog thinned momentarily, revealing twisted silhouettes in the distance, but they shrank back into the mists like frightened phantoms. In that moment, she saw a flash of pale skin and disheveled hair, a ghostly suggestion of Max struggling in the dark, caught within the web of shadows. A howl erupted, drowning the deepening silence, filling her with dread. It wasn't just Mr. Crowley anymore, something else was awake in the fog, something ancient and waiting. An unseen force urged her on, a bond stronger than fear. She sprinted, praying she could snatch Max from whatever clutches held him captive. And then, the ground shook violently beneath her feet as a crack split the surface, revealing a haunting maw of darkness that seemed to stretch into oblivion. Just as she reached for him, the shadows seemed to coalesce, forming a grotesque shape, a twisted amalgam of despair. Panic surged as she felt the ground shift again. The darkness rippled, layering despair into confusion. "Stay close!" She screamed to Max, feeling the warmth of his presence near but utterly helpless against the creature thrumming with wicked energy. "In your fear, you make the choice for both of you," Crowley hissed, his laughter echoing like a sinister chant. "If there's nothing left of you, who can save him then?" She remembered every moment they shared, family dinners, laughter, hugs when the world seemed too big. An overwhelming rush of determination coursed through her. But would it be enough against the void threatening to consume them both? No. Sarah roared defiantly, charging toward the flickering shadows. As her shovel connected with the beast's twisted form, an anguished wail erupted, filling her with dread, but as the sound echoed through the darkness, it was joined by another scream, one not from Max, but from deep within the shadows themselves. Something was unraveling. And then it hit her like a freight train. The true horror had only just begun. What would rise from the depths, clawing for a piece of her soul? The fog wrapped tighter around them, pulling toward the epicenter of chaos. Her mind raced, and she knew if she couldn't rescue Max, they'd both be pulled down into the abyss. What lay ahead would either deliver them into freedom or drag them into eternal night. Had the real monster been lurking beneath the surface all along? The shadows writhed around them, twisting and turning with a mind of their own. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, its rhythm a frantic drumbeat on the battlefield of her soul. Each step she took was met with resistance, as if the very ground beneath her wanted to swallow her whole. "Max," she struggled to call, her voice strained, barely a whisper in the cacophony of dark whispers and howling winds. Each syllable felt like a prayer, a plea that danced on the edge of despair. But no response came. Just a haunting silence enveloping her, threading its icy fingers around her throat, tightening with each passing second. "Max!" She shouted again, desperation clawing at her throat. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, revealing a glimpse of Max, bound and trembling, his fragile face illuminated by a soft shimmer of light intertwined with darkness. He looked ghostly pale, his eyes wide with fear. "Mom!" he cried, his small voice barely breaking through but enough to send raw energy rushing through her veins. "Hold on!" she screamed, lunging towards him, the shovel gripped tightly in her hands as her only weapon. Just as she took another step, the air grew thicker, heavier, pressing against her like a suffocating blanket. The ground beneath her cracked further, fissures crawling closer to where Max lay. "Run!" His urgent voice sliced through the air, juxtaposing against the encroaching shadows. "Get away from here!" "No!" she screamed back, her voice full of defiance. "I won't leave you." The shadows unfurled around Max like serpents, their pure malice palpable. They closed in, relentless, trying to consume him whole. Sarah felt the weight of reality, the feeling of impending doom, for she knew she couldn't face this alone. Collector and collector of chaos, Crowley's laughter roared through the space, a soundtrack of wicked triumph. "You see how they attempt to shield you, dear Sarah?" he taunted. "Imagine how sweet his cries would be beneath my reign." Something deep in the shadows responded, a feral snarl that shook the very air between them. Whatever it was had thirsted for ages, waiting for the right moment to strike, waiting for Sarah to make her fatal choice. With every ounce of her strength, she swung the shovel once again, but this time an electric shock vibrated through her, as if the shadows fought back. The blade crushed into the darkness, but instead of retreating, the entity surged forward, ripping the air around her with a violent scream that echoed in her mind, chilling her to the core. "Leave him alone!" She howled, disoriented, but faced with the unshakable truth she could lose him forever. By staying, you forsake him, Crowley sneered, his voice wrapping around her like poison. The darkness offers a way to save him, and yet it demands a price. All that you've ever loved in exchange for all that you've ever known. Suddenly a sharp pain shot through her, bitter and searing. There was warmth trickling from her fingertips, and she looked down to find blood blooming against her skin. The shadows had found a way to pierce her resolve, each drip a connection to the deal she had never wanted to strike. Max's voice trembled, mingling with the shadows like a prayer. Desperation coursed through her a relentless tide. "I'll never give you what you want," she vowed, voice trembling with rage and fear. But as she prepared to charge again, something even darker emerged from the depths of despair. The source, the heart of the shadows, unfolded before her, revealing itself like the final layer of a malignant onion. What she faced was far more than she had imagined, its eyes like pools of infinite darkness, and with it came an overwhelming sense of dread, as if eternity itself was trapped within its gaze. Her breath hitched, panic rising as she felt the urge to flee deep within her gut. But she didn't pause. Not now. Not ever. "Max. Hold on." Her heart raced as the true terror of the ultimate sacrifice unfurled in front of her, but then, amidst the chaos, a thought pierced her panic. Could saving Max mean losing herself entirely? Could the very act of love condemn them both to darkness? The ground quaked, and a voice like shattering glass responded, "Choose or watch." The shadows grasped at her ankles, curling like a vice, dragging her toward a decision that had to be made. Would she gamble everything, including her own soul, to save him? And standing on the edge of that unraveling fate, something stirred within her, a force waiting to be unleashed. What would she awaken in her fight for love? The shadows tightened around Sarah, snaking around her legs and creeping higher, a cold embrace that chilled her marrow. She felt the darkness whispering secrets she'd never wanted to know. They clawed at her mind like desperate fingers, hungry for surrender. "Mom, please." Max's voice echoed, stronger now despite the chaos around them. Each plea pulled at her, raw and desperate, igniting a fire beneath the layers of fear. But how could she reach him, when the shadows were clawing her towards an abyss? "Every moment you hesitate, the shadows grow bolder," Crowley's voice slithered through the air, low and taunting. "What will you sacrifice? Perhaps your memories of him? His laughter, his face, everything you love will be unmade in your indecision." His words resonated, a sickening chant that swirled around her. She grasped the shovel tighter, the metal cool and solid against her palm. It felt like one thin line of hope in a sea of terror. "I will not let you take him," she shouted, her voice breaking, fury igniting her words. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet, a deep rumble that vibrated up her legs and into her chest. She struggled to stay upright as fissures snaked across the earth, threatening to swallow her whole. In the distance, shadows danced, snarling and coiling like wolves poised for an attack. Max was still bound, his helpless form a stark contrast against the dark backdrop. "Mom, it's too risky. Just go," he screamed. His voice cracked, a sound that shattered her resolve and replaced it with an even stronger determination. "No. I won't abandon you. I'll find a way." Taking a step closer, the shadows surged, their fierce cries clawing at her mind. Panic gripped her, but she pushed forward, charging against the tide. The air thickened, and the shadows hissed angrily, thrashing like a beast that had just been wounded. She swung the shovel again, desperation fueling her strength. The blade connected with the darkness, sending out a shockwave that shook the very fabric of the nightmare. But her victory was short-lived. The entity shrieked in fury, a cacophony that stole the breath from her lungs. "Why struggle against the inevitable? You can have him back." Crowley's voice was a velvet whisper, seductive and sinister, winding around her like a snake. "Just say the word, what will you give?" Images flashed before her eyes, Max smiling, running in the sun, the way his laughter filled her heart with light. The thought of losing that forever made her scream. "Take it all. Just let him go. The moment the words escaped her lips, the shadows recoiled, paused. For a heartbeat, silence wrapped around them. Then, with a hunger that resonated through the very core of her being, they surged forward, consuming her. Pain radiated through her limbs, a hungry gnawing at her essence. She felt pieces of herself slipping away, memories fading as the shadows feasted on her love and the darkness clutched at her heart. Each moment shared with Max threatened to be extinguished. "Sarah!" Max shouted, his voice breaking through the haze like a lifebuoy in a storm. The desperation echoed like a beacon, igniting something within her. She wasn't just a vessel of sacrifice, she was his mother, and she had the power to fight back. With every ounce of strength, she pushed against the encroaching shadows, drawing on the love they shared. Shouts of defiance rose in her throat, raw and fierce. "You won't take me, and you won't take him." Suddenly, a blinding light burst from her chest, illuminating the shadows with a forceful glare. The entity howled, retreating from the brilliance, the shadows recoiling as if burned. But the light came with a cost. Each pulse of power drained her, leaving her growing weaker. She could feel herself fading, the price of love once again being weighed in the balance. "Mom!" Max cried, alarmed. "I need you to trust me." She gasped, her breath labored. "Hold on tight." As the shadows swarmed back, angry and relentless, she hurled herself forward, forcing the light into the darkness. The scream that erupted from the shadows was unlike anything she had ever heard, a symphony of agony. But in that moment of power, she felt a flicker of hope. Could it work? Would she break the cycle of fear and despair? With one final push, she grasped at the last remnants of her strength, ready to fight for the love that defined her very existence. But before she could fully comprehend the outcome of her sacrifice, a ripple traveled through the air, leaving behind a chilling question echoing in the stillness: what remnants of herself would remain if she succeeded, and what price would that extract? The blinding light flickered like a dying star, illuminating the cursed ground with a transient glow. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in their pain, yet they were not defeated. They writhed and twisted, reforming into a darker shape more monstrous and menacing than before. Sarah felt each pulse of the light drain her. The warmth of love giving way to an icy grip of despair. "Max!" She cried, the name a desperate prayer on her lips, but no response came. The ground under her trembled, a dark promise of what awaited if she faltered. Suddenly, she could hear the shadows whispering, a cacophony of voices overlapping, twisting her name into something grotesque, mocking. "Sarah, every piece you give will leave you less." She gritted her teeth, defiance coursing through her like blood. "Get away from us." Then it happened. The shadows surged forward, coiling tightly around her wrists, squeezing until her heart raced and her vision blurred. Each pulse of light felt like it was tethering her to a fragile thread, and the moment it waned, she could sense the darkness waiting to pounce, ready to drag her into its heart. A glint of silver caught her eye. Her shovel lay just beyond her reach, glimmering defiantly in the dark. Summoning every last ounce of will, she lunged forward, dragging the shadows with her. The world spun as she stretched towards it, desperation clawing at her every move. As her fingers brushed against the handle, a surge of electricity shot through her, igniting a flicker of hope. The shadows screamed, a collective howl of fury that set her teeth on edge. It was as if they knew she was regaining control, their hold constricted tighter, threatening to sever her mind from reality. Gripping the shovel like a lifeline, she swung it with all her strength. The blade sliced through the air like a shimmering blade of light, connecting with the darkness once more. The shadows shrieked, dissipating into wisps that curled like smoke, pulled away from the brunt of her blow. "Mom, please!" Max's voice broke through the growing tumult, desperate, shaking her from her haze. "Don't give in. Fight!" At that moment, Sarah felt the heartbeat of the shadows beneath her feet, a dark pulse that matched her own. Each striking beat resonated deep, a promise that if she fell, she would be forgotten entirely. The weight of dread anchored her, threatening to pull her under. With renewed vigor, she rallied against the tendrils of shadow, swinging the shovel again and again. Each arc was woven with her deepest fears and her relentless love for Max. The shadows screeched, shrieking like banshees as they evaporated into the air, swirling in a chaotic vortex. "Why, Sarah?" Crowley's voice reverberated through the chaos, smooth as oil but laced with rising anger. "Why fight a losing battle? You could have it all if you only surrendered no." She shouted, and with each denied promise, she felt more of her strength returning. "I won trade love for a false promise." As the shadows retreated, she could hear a thickness in the air, a palpable shift around her. It was as if the darkness itself was hesitating, waiting for a sign of weakness, waiting for her last gasp. "Mom, you're running out of time." Max shouted, and the urgency thrummed in the very air. Something shifted in the shadows, a rippling wave like the spread of spilled water. They gathered anew, heavier and darker, swirling toward her. A sudden, cold wave washed over her, and Sarah understood. This time it wouldn't be just a battle of strength, it was a battle of wills. If she faltered now, everything she had fought for would slip away. But the question loomed: what would she gain if she managed to push through, and would Max remain if she did? In the distance, something deep rumbled, causing the ground beneath her to shatter once more, a final test. The shadows converged, howling, and she realized that what awaited them may be more horrifying than anything she had faced. "Mom!" Max cried one last time, "Do it now. We have to break the shadows." With no other choice, pieces of her heart frayed and floating into the darkness, Sarah lifted her shovel high, the very essence of hope glinting against the void. Would this be the final strike to shatter the nightmare? Would they both emerge unscathed? Or was this the moment everything would change forever? As Sarah raised the shovel, an electric pulse of determination surged through her. The shadows writhed, angry and hungry, but she could feel a flicker of something else: her love for Max, a fierce flame that refused to be extinguished. It blazed with the memories of laughter shared, the warmth of hugs, and the unwavering connection between a mother and her child. "Max, hold on. I'm coming," she shouted, every word a declaration against the suffocating darkness. The shadows screamed their defiance, but Sarah knew that she had to break through, that she had to trust in the bond that had guided them this far. With a primal scream, she swung the shovel down like a lightning bolt, aiming straight for the heart of the shadowy beast. It connected with a thunderous force, sending shockwaves reverberating through the air. The darkness shrieked, a piercing sound that blended fury and fear, and for an instant, the curl of shadows loosened its grip around her. "Now, Max. Run!" Sarah called out, summoning every ounce of strength left in her. The veil of darkness was shifting, seeping back in response to the inevitable light of her love, but as the shadows pulled away, something new emerged: a glimmer of light, soft yet persistent, illuminating the path ahead. It weaved through the darkness like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Her heart raced at the sight. This could be their way out. In a moment of clarity, Sarah realized the truth. The shadows were manifestations of fear that had taken root in Elmwood, fed by the darkness lurking within. She had to embrace the light within herself, use it to sever the ties that bound them. "You don't own us," she shouted, her voice mighty and resolute. "You will not devour my child." With that final declaration, she swung the shovel again, more fiercely this time. The grounded dark shapes writhed and twisted violently, and the shadowy figure of Mr. Crowley unveiled itself fully. His form, once intimidating, appeared fragile in the face of Sarah's unwavering spirit. He staggered back, his laughter turning to a howl of rage as he collided with the encroaching light. "You cannot defeat me," he bellowed, but the shadows began to splinter, cracking like glass before an explosion, revealing the glimmering light of dawn breaking through the fog. The shadows howled, retreating in desperation as Sarah surged forward, bolstered by the strength of every mother's love, a force greater than fear, greater than malice. But then she caught a glimpse of Max. He was still trapped in a tangle of shadows, his eyes wide and filled with terror, and Sarah's heart clenched. She couldn't let him be left behind. "Max!" she cried, reaching out to pull him free. His tiny body shivered within grasp of darkness, and that fear ignited a storm of ferocity within her. "Fight with me, Mom!" he shouted, inching closer, but the shadows surged to keep him from her grasp. Sarah felt the light in her heart burst forth, raw and brilliant, when she made the jump for him. The shovel became an extension of her will, and with all her love pooling in her heart, she swung it one last time. "Together!" she roared. The light erupted, swallowing them whole as the shadows screeched in futility. In the wake of that luminescent blast, the darkness shattered like crystal, exploding outward, revealing not just freedom, but the lives of those lost faces of children behind the mask of fear, eyes shining with hope as chains of despair fell away, and just like that, Max flung himself into Sarah's arms, their bodies enveloped in the brilliance of love redefined. She spun around, laughing, tears of unimaginable relief streaming down her face as laughter echoed back triumphantly through Elmwood. The darkness ebbed away, no longer able to hold them in fear's grip. Her heart soared with appreciation at the dawn breaking across the horizon, casting light on all that had been hidden now ready to be reclaimed. As the community came alive, the childhood laughter began to weave back into the fabric of Elmwood, bringing vitality and warmth. Mr. Crowley's shadow lingered only as a whisper, brief, fleeting, a reminder of what could have been. But together, they had carved a new path, a future unmarked by shadows. They turned, hand in hand, toward a horizon glistening with possibilities, leaving behind the haunting specter of fear. It had tried to consume them, but their resolve had triumphed. They had faced death and won through the sheer, indefatigable power of love. With the fog lifting, the dawn painted the world anew, a vibrant palette of hope and resilience. It was time for healing, for rebuilding, and to cherish each day they had together. As Sarah turned to Max, her chest swelling with pride and love, she whispered, "We'll always fight for each other, won't we?" "Yes, Mom." "Always," Max replied, his voice resonating with tenacity. Together, they stepped forward into the light, leaving behind the darkness. They were ready to face whatever came next. End of story. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive tales that will leave you breathless. Smash that like button now and feed the algorithm to keep these stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. I want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this adventure concludes. Your support matters, and only true fans can keep this channel thriving.